Chapter 124. The enmity is as transient as a fleeting cloud eye watching the old general leaving. Nalan Zankian's lips curved into a smile. At this time, all the enmity buried in his heart was like a passing cloud, vanishing without a trace. As Nalan Zhangqian was still worried about Feng Ruqing, he naturally no longer held onto her wrongdoings in the past. So long as Feng Ruqing had truly changed, he would let go of the past and move on. Master Nalan rushed to the courtyard. He had even forgotten about the crutch that he had always carried with him wherever he went. At the courtyard, a wide variety of spirit beasts standing in line that looked like a well-trained troop came into sight. Seeing this, Master Nalan flew into a great panic and stopped moving. He simply did not know what had actually happened. "Grandpa!" A familiar voice called out. Master Nalan raised his head. The snow wolf graciously walked out from the herd of spirit beasts. Feng Ruqing jumped off the snow wolf with Nalan Dyer in her arms as she slowly walked toward Master Nalan. "Grandpa, I'm sorry to have made you worried," Feng Ruqing said gently with a faint smile on her face. As Feng Ruqing wanted to get some spirit beasts to work for her, she thought that it was not a big deal if she could return on the same day. Little did she know that she had actually caused a stir in her family and had made them worried. It was, no doubt, her fault. "It's fine as long as you are back." All the words that Master Nalan wanted to say had turned into tears. He wiped off the tears from the corners of his eyes as he spoke in a trembling voice. Standing not far away from the courtyard, Nalan Zhangqian had initially wanted to rebuke Feng Ruqing. However, seeing that the courtyard was filled with spirit beasts, Nalan Zhangqian was dumbfounded. "Your Highness, you robbed the beast court?" Hearing Nalan Zhangqian, Feng Ruqing's face darkened a few shades. Was she such a devil in the eyes of her own uncle? Why would she do that? Howl. The snow wolf was infuriated by Nalan Zankian's remark, as it was all its merit, and had nothing to do with the bastards in the beast court. Not only did those bastards in the beast court caught the snow wolf, but they had also taken away its hard-earned merit. Apparently, these bastards are targeting the divine spirit fruit. The snow wolf would never let these bastards off easily. The snow wolf was burning with murderous rage. Little did Nalan Zhangqian know that his words had actually put the beast court into deadly trouble. Irreconcilable enmity. "Shut up. My granddaughter is not that kind of person." Master Nalan turned to glare at Nalan Zhangqian. Nalan Zhangqian did not utter a word. Robbing the beast court was extremely normal. It was true that the old princess would definitely do that. "Grandpa knows me best." Feng Ruqing smiled. "Uncle, these are the workers that I have just recruited today. They will work for me." Nalan Zhangqian was rendered speechless. Feng Ruqing wants the spirit beasts to work for her? Does she want to make these spirit beasts her slaves? "I am paying them for their work." Feng Ruqing could read Nalan Zankian's mind. Her face darkened again. "Pay them? Do they know how to spend money?" Stunned, Nalan Zhangqian glanced at the spirit beasts. "Your Highness, did you deceive these spirit beasts to work for you? Please don't do that." For the Nalan family, spirit beasts are of the same rank as human beings. "You just can't make them your slaves like what some of the people do out there," Nalan Zhangqian said earnestly. Chapter 125. The enmity is as transient as a fleeting cloud too. Hearing Nalan Zankian's advice, not only was Feng Ruqing not infuriated, his words had actually warmed her heart, as Feng Ruqing could not find a single piece of advice in the memory of the previous princess for years. Nalan Zhangqian had always been guiding and advising the princess every time she made a mistake during her childhood. However, the princess was too young to understand the reason behind it back then. Ever since she got close to the noble consort Rome, the princess had gotten more and more annoyed with Nalan Zhangqian. Moreover, Nalan Zhangqian did not have much time to guide her. As the emperor was too busy with the kingdom's affairs, noble consort Rome had gradually led her astray. There was once when Nalan Zhangqian had advised the princess again, she had retorted. Since then, Nalan Zhangqian had never chastised her again. Now that Nalan Zhangqian had given her a few words of advice, apparently, he was no longer holding a grudge against her. "What are you laughing at?" Seeing Feng Ruqing laughed, Nalan Zhangqian frowned as he asked, "Uncle, my father has always been busy, and my mother passed away when I was little. I am so fortunate to have you who have always been guiding me. However, I was too ignorant and have upset you in the past. That was not all. I have even trusted noble consort Rong so much so that I have broken your heart. I will never do that again in the future. Feng Ruqing smiled as she shook her head. Slightly startled, Nalan Zhanqian's body stiffened. As Nalan Zhangqian only had a son, he had treated Feng Ruqing as his own daughter. When Feng Ruqing was little, she was extremely adorable and sensible. However, things had completely changed ever since she had met noble consort Rong. It is my fault. If only I could spend more time with you and keep you company when you left the palace back then, you would not have gotten closer to noble consort Rong, and things would have been entirely different. Nalan Zhangqian smiled wryly. Uncle, do you truly think that if you have stopped me from leaving the palace alone, Feng Rushuang would not hurt herself to save me, and I would not have felt gratitude toward noble consort Rong? You are wrong. Feng Rushuang would still get hurt because of me. Feng Ruqing burst out in laughter. Feng Ruqing had said it forthrightly. Apparently, people around her could quickly understand her words. Qing'er, you were saying that the person who wanted to hurt you when you left the palace back then took orders from noble consort Rong? Master Nalan looked hard at Feng Ruqing as he held her hands tightly. If I don't know Feng Rushuang well, perhaps I would have truly thought that she would give up her own life to save mine. However, I know her so well and I know that she is such a selfish lady. Naturally, she would not do so. Hence, I suspect that this is noble consort Rong's conspiracy. Feng Ruqing lowered her eyes. However, even the emperor was not capable of getting the culprit. Noble consort Rong was really something, and someone must be backing her. Lu Rong. Nalan Zhanqian's hands balled into fists. His eyes were filled with murderous intent. If Lu Rong was truly the master behind it, she had nearly destroyed Feng Ruqing's life. Nalan Zhangqian would not let her off the hook so easily. He must take Lu Rong's life no matter who had her back. Uncle, let's not talk about this. Where is Aunt? Feng Ruqing's gaze scanned her surroundings as she asked. As Feng Ruqing's aunt loved Nalan Dyer so much, she must have lost her mind, knowing that Nalan Dyer had left General Manor. Since Nalan Dyer was back, she must be the first person to come out. However, Feng Ruqing's aunt was nowhere to be found. Chapter 126. The young lady of the Qin family. I slightly startled. Nalan Zhangqian sighed. The young lady of the Qin family is sick. Your aunt went to the Qin family this morning and has not returned yet. She told us not to disturb her. Perhaps she does not know about this. Feng Ruqing sank into silence. Feng Ruqing's aunt Qinyu was the eldest daughter in the Qin family. The young lady of the Qin family was her sister-in-law. The young lady had always been weak and infertile. Even so, the Qin family had never given up on the young lady, and the young master, Qin Lin, had never thought of getting another wife. Uncle, I have gone out for the whole day. My father must be worried about me. I need to go to the palace. I will pay the young lady of the Qin family a visit later. You want to visit the Qin family? Nalan Zhangqian was worried and his brows knitted together. Uncle, are you worried that I would mock the young lady that she is a hen that is not capable of laying eggs? Feng Ruqing broke into laughter. As the young lady of the Qin family was weak, she rarely walked out of the manor. However, as part of the Qin family, she had always bumped into the princess. The princess had always mocked her, and she had even passed out from rage. That's not what I meant. I am just worried that the young lady of the Qin family is afraid of you and her health would be affected if she sees you. Nalan Zhangqian could not help but answer. Feng Ruqing's face darkened. The old princess had caused too much trouble. She must iron them out one by one. Uncle, they will not throw me out the manor if Dyer is going with me. Everything would be just fine. Feng Ruqing smiled as she stroked Dyer's head. Things would become much better if Feng Ruqing could meet the young lady of the Qin family. The news that Feng Ruqing had returned to the city had made a great stir in the palace. Some of them felt relieved, while most of them were disappointed. Noble consort Rong was extremely resentful and had nearly broken all the ceramic decorations in her manor. She hated that Feng Ruqing was still alive and that she was not as obedient as she used to be. It was natural that noble consort Rong hated Feng Ruqing. She had put in so much effort to rise to her current position. Ever since Feng Ruching had woken up, all her efforts had gone down the drain. Feng Ruching, I will get everything that Nailin Yin owes me from you. Lu Rong's eyes darkened. A faint semblance of enmity flickered in her eyes. Her face turned extremely ferocious and horrifying. 20 years ago, many well-off and privileged young masters and ladies had gathered at Lu Yun Kingdom. The Crown Prince Feng Tianyu was amongst them. As Feng Tianyu was extremely talented and stunningly handsome, he had stood out from the crowd. Lu Rong had fallen in love with him at first sight. However, Feng Tianyu had given his heart to the eldest daughter of the general's family, Nailin Yin, a young master with remarkable talent, and an exquisitely gorgeous young lady were no doubt a match made in heaven. On the contrary, Lu Rong was no match for her and was left to wither. Lu Rong hated the fact that she had actually fallen in love with Feng Tianyu first, but he had gone and given his heart to Nailin Yin. Hence, Lu Rong's father had worked together with many officials of the kingdom and forced the emperor to take Lu Rong as his concubine during the empress installation ceremony. As many of the officials had their own conspiracies and wanted to make their own daughter as one of the emperor's concubines, they had quickly agreed with Lu Rong's father. At that time, Feng Tianyu was still very young when the late emperor passed away. Hence, he did not have a strong foundation and naturally was not capable of going against them. Chapter 127. The young lady of the Qin family too. Since then, Lu Rong's had realized her dream and rose to the status of a noble lady. However, the emperor had pronounced before all his concubines that Nailin Yin was his only. The rest of the concubines were nothing more than an empty shell, a political marriage to please the imperial officials. Lu Rong closed her eyes slowly. A giddily affectionate heaven-made couple flashed through her mind. There were many times that she wanted to rush out to shake the heartbroken scene off of her mind. Nailin Yin. Lu Rong clutched her chest as she gritted her teeth. Since you have died, why are you still taking His Majesty's heart away? Why are you still the Empress of Lu Yun Kingdom? Noble consort Rong. At this time, a lady in servant's attire walked into the manor. When she saw that the manor was a mess, her face darkened a few shades. Are you insane? You are in the palace. The emperor has eyes everywhere. You are digging your own grave by doing this. Disregarding every aspect of etiquette, the servant talked to Lu Rong as if Lu Rong was her servant. I'm sorry. I did not manage to control my emotion. Lu Rong did not lose her temper. She got up slowly with a pale face. Please behave yourself. If someone finds out, the master will not hesitate to sacrifice you and get another concubine for the emperor. The servant's eyes narrowed. A hint of viciousness flashed in her eyes. No, he won't do that. Even if I truly made a mistake, he will not kill me. After all, Schwanger. Lu Rong's face was ghastly pale as she bit her lip hard. Shut up. Watch your mouth. If you ruin the master's plan, I will kill you on his behalf. The servant shouted coldly. You should know what the master truly wants. You are nothing to him. The servant walked slowly toward Lu Ring and lowered her tone as she sneered. The servant's words sent a chill down Lu Rong's spine. Her body stiffened all of a sudden. She knew that she was truly reckless this time. As her master was extremely ruthless, he had lost his mind when Lu Rong was not capable of handling Feng Ruching previously. Hence, she must not make another mistake again. Otherwise, he would definitely kill Lu Rong to accomplish his goal. I know what I should do. Lu Rong took a deep breath with a determined look. The Lu family and Feng Ruching's fate are all in your hands. As long as you are loyal to the master, not only will the whole world be within the Lu family's grasp, the master would fulfill Feng Rushwang's dream. Marrying the state preceptor, the servant said, with a smile on her face. Hearing this, Lu Rong's eyes sparkled. As she could not get the person she loved the most, she would not allow Feng Rushwang to follow her path. She would make the state preceptor marry Feng Rushwang at all costs. All right, what does the master want me to do? Lu Rong regained her composure as she asked. He has chosen a husband for Feng Ruching, and she must marry him by hook or by crook. The servant lowered her eyes. Her voice was so sinister that Lu Rong's heart turned cold. After leaving General Manor, Feng Ruching went directly to the palace. Seeing that Feng Ruching had returned to the palace safe and sound, Feng Tianyu sighed in relief. As Feng Tianyu was busy with the political affairs, Feng Ruching simply reminded him to drink the spirit wine before she left the imperial study. Chapter 128. The young lady of the Qin family 3, this little girl even reminded me to drink the wine. Well, get me the wine that the princess gave me the last time. Watching Feng Ruching leaving, Feng Tianyu couldn't help but smile. The wine was the first present that Feng Ruching had given him. Naturally, he could not bear to drink it. Now that Feng Ruching had reminded him, he must take a sip. Not long after, a eunuch walked into the imperial study with a cup of wine placed on the tray in his hands. Feng Tianyu brought the jade cup to his lips. Before he took a sip of the wine, the fragrance of the wine streamed from the cup and into his nostrils. It was so intoxicating that Feng Tianyu was slightly jolted. This wine. The wine was no ordinary wine and was rich in spiritual qi. Eunuch Ling, this is the wine that the princess gave me? Yes, your majesty. The eunuch waved the horsetail whisk as he answered respectfully. Feng Tianyu gulped down a mouthful of wine with an imposing expression on his face. As the wine streamed down his throat, a sudden warmth engulfed his body. Feng Tianyu could not help but groan softly. Spirit wine could soothe aches and pains as well as strengthen the body. However, it was not capable of treating all the diseases. Even so, Feng Tianyu felt so much better than before. Haha, this is such good wine. Get me another cup of this wine. Ever since Empress Nalan had passed away, Feng Tianyu had suffered from overwhelming distress, both physically and mentally. He had never felt this good for a long while. This wine was truly amazing. Your Majesty, since you love this wine so much, why don't this servant buy all of this wine for you? Ling asked joyfully. It was truly rare that Feng Tianyu would love wine so much. Eunuch, how could you buy such good wine with money? Feng Tianyu broke into laughter. Then Her Highness, Eunuch Ling was slightly startled. If the wine could not be bought with money, how could the princess get that? I don't care where Qinger got this from. Everyone has her own secret. Why should we care about that? Go and invite Master Nalan. I want to drink this wine with him today. Haha. Feng Tianyu let out a boisterous laugh. As the saying goes, shared joy is a double joy. It was such a waste to drink such a great wine alone. At your command, Eunuch Ling retreated. When Eunuch Ling left the imperial study, he could still hear the Feng Tianyu's laughter in the air. He had not been laughing so happily ever since Empress Nalan's death. Eunuch Ling shook his head helplessly and sighed softly. As His Majesty has dealt with great pain for losing the one he loved the most, his health has deteriorated. Has it not been for Her Highness, His Majesty would have taken his own life. At the entrance of Qin Manor, Feng Ruching stopped walking with Dyer in tow. Standing at the door, Dyer's tiny hand clung onto Feng Ruching's arm. The two guards flew into a great panic when they saw Feng Ruching and could hardly say a word. Your Highness? I heard that my aunt is at Qin Manor. I am here to take my aunt home. Could you please inform her? All right, the guard quickly answered and rushed into the courtyard. The chamber was peacefully silent with white yarn dancing in the wind. Qini was sitting next to a bed with intricate wood carvings. Her hand held gently onto the young lad's hand as she said softly, Pinyao, don't overthink. Your health is more important. Lying in bed, the young lady looked extremely sorrowful as color drained from her face. Chapter 129. The young lady of the Qin family 4, sister, as you know, my body is frail, and I am unable to give a child to the Qin family. If he can take in one concubine, perhaps, the Qin family will have an heir. However, Qin Sun had clarified this matter a long time ago. He would rather adopt an orphan instead of getting a concubine. His confession really made her feel touched but guilty at the same time. Pinyao, you should not keep saying such words. Our family does not practice polygamy. Moreover, Sooner has always been loyal to you. Your action will only hurt him instead of helping him in this situation. Chini frowned and quickly took Wei Pinyo's seemingly boneless hand and held it tight. She consoled her gently. Besides, you are unable to conceive due to your weak body. Once you fully recover, what will happen to those concubines? They will become an eyesore, wouldn't they? Wei Pinyao shook her head sadly. Tears were flowing down her cheeks. She said, I have been suffering from this illness since birth. Nobody has found the cure after so many years, let alone at the present moment. That year, her father's concubine poisoned her mother for the sake of getting her father's affection. Although her mother was safe in the end, unfortunately, she who was still in her mother's womb at that moment had suffered from the side effect since. She had always been in poor health after she was born. Qin Sun was worried that history might repeat itself. The same incident might happen to his beloved wife, so he was determined not to have any concubines even though she could not conceive. The more you overthink about it, the weaker your body will become. In fact, Suner has already made it clear that he is willing to adopt a child when the need arises. If worst comes to worst, your brother-in-law and I can have another child, and we will name him with Qin's surname. The issue is solved, isn't it? Why must you suffocate yourself with this matter? If Qin Sun really had a concubine like what his wife wished for, the person who would suffer the most at the end was Wei Pinyao herself. How could she bear with another woman sleeping beside her husband? Sister. Wei Pinyao could not stop her tears from flowing. Thank you. Really thank all of you. In normal circumstances, the husband would normally get a concubine if his wife could not give birth to any children. Fortunately, she married into the Qin family. Without the support of other Qin family members, her husband might not have persisted with his own decision. On the contrary, if this happened to other families, there would have been many concubines in the household. However, the guilt in her heart grew bigger because the Qin family had been treating her so well. She hated herself for her inability to produce an heir for the Qin family. Lady Nailin. Suddenly, someone called urgently from outside. Qin turned and looked at the door to find a guard rushing in urgently. He half-kneeled on the floor and reported, Lady Nailin, Princess Royal is waiting outside. She is requesting to see you now. Her Royal Highness? What is she doing here? Qin looked at Wei Pinyao worriedly. She had already promised both of her father-in-law and husband that she would no longer treat the princess with animosity anymore. However, the princess had done too many things in the past, so it was difficult for her to have a good impression of the princess since then. Wei Pinyo's face turned pale when she recalled the insulting words that Feng Ruching threw at her previously. The fact that she could not bear any children was already a sore spot which constantly haunted her, but the princess kept reminding her of it and mocked her non-stop. She was tired by her persistent mockery, physically and mentally. Since then, she had never entered the palace anymore and even avoided Feng Ruching outside of the palace. However, why did she turn up at the Qin residence now? Mistress, the guard looked at Qin cautiously and solemnly before continuing. Not only the princess is here, young Lady Dyer is outside as well. As expected, Qin quickly stood up hurriedly once she heard what the guard had said. Her face showed she was agitated and distressed. No matter how many times Nailin Zhangqian had reassured her that Feng Ruqiang would not hurt Dyer anymore, she could not believe her words anymore. Dyer was her precious treasure, her life. Chapter 130. The young lady of the Qin family V. She would never allow anyone to hurt Dyer. Pinyao. Thinking of Wei Pinyao, who was still immersed in her melancholy, Qin turned to look at her doubtfully. Wei Pinyao assured her with a smile. Sister, hurry up. Do not let the princess and Dyer wait for you for too long. One more thing. She is Princess Royal after all. You'd better stay calm and be mindful of your expressions. I know, Qin replied with a bitter smile. She would not dare to show her dislike openly. How bold would she be? She only had a fear of the princess. Looking at Wei Pinyao, who seemed better, made her feel relieved. Qin slowly turned around and walked outside. Just when she left the courtyard, the first thing that came into Qin's vision was Nailin Dyer, who laughing heartily in Feng Ruqing's arms. She could finally breathe a sigh of relief as her palpitating heart steadied. Perhaps it was like what her husband had claimed. The princess had really turned a new leaf. However, she could not care less about it. Whenever she thought of the prince's past doings, there was a burden she could not let go in her heart. Your Royal Highness. Qin walked to Feng Ruqing's side. Just as she was about to greet her with a bow, Feng Ruqing had already put down Dyer and tugged Qin's arm to stop her. Aunt, You're my elder. How could I let you bow to me? His Majesty would blame me if he saw this. Chini replied with a faint smile, Princess is a monarch while I am a subordinate. There should be some courtesy and civility. Feng Ruqing sighed. It seemed not easy to make this aunt accept her again. Aunt, I still remember during my 5th birthday, you had purposely stolen old Master Qin's precious weapon and given it to me as my birthday gift. And you were scolded badly by him due to this incident. Not only that, there was one time when I fell down and injured myself when I had climbed the wall with cousin. You hit him so hard that he could not come down from his bed for 2 days. It was only for one reason. You blamed him because he did not lie down in time to cushion me from falling. In my opinion, there's no difference between aunt and mother. I must be blamed for my past ignorant and immature attitude for hurting my beloved aunt's feelings. The maiden's eyes showed full sincerity and seemed genuine. Chini glanced at Feng Ruqing with indifference. Her expression remained apathetic. It's true that I have stolen my father's weapon, but you nearly injured Dyer using the weapon. If I knew this would happen, I would not have stolen my father's weapon for you. Feng Ruqing's facial expression went stiff instantly. She quickly searched it in her memory. It indeed had happened like how she described it. If her uncle did not rush over in time, she could have injured Dyer. The precious and priceless sword which old Master Qin had spent a fortune on was finally destroyed by the furious uncle. The whole incident happened due to a groundless rumor started by Feng Ruquang. Old Feng Ruqing had always sided with her, so she naturally acted on behalf of her interest. Actually, Feng Ruqing could not figure out the reason behind Feng Ruquang's animosity toward Dyer. She was only a child. This, Feng Ruqing could only laugh awkwardly. Aunt, Princess, it is getting late. Let's go back now. Qin Yi did not intend to continue the conversation. Feng Ruqing had done many wrongdoings, to the point where she simply could not forgive her. Wait. Feng Ruqing quickly took a few steps forward to stop Qin Yi from leaving. She walked into the courtyard and smiled gently. I have 2 objectives today. Firstly, I am here to escort you home. Secondly, I wish to visit the young mistress of the Qin family. I have even prepared some food for her. Qin Yi had already noticed the meal box in Feng Ruqing's hand since the very beginning. However, she did not give much thought about it. Now, she started freaking out after Feng Ruqing pointed it out. Chapter 131. The young lady of the Qin family 6, Pinyo's body is too weak. Consuming tonic might not be effective for her. Qin Yi did not dare to let Wei Pinyao consume Feng Ruqing's food. What if she poisoned the food again? However, Pinyao was not like Zhang Qian. He could bear it until it went away. Her body was too weak, and the suffering was definitely too much for her. Suddenly, a gentle voice could be heard from nearby. Her Royal Highness is here. Sister Qin Yi, why didn't you invite her inside for tea? Qin Yi's expression turned dark instantly. Her face showed a little anger. Feng Ruqing raised her eyebrows and diverted her attention to this woman who was walking slowly from the inner part of the courtyard. This woman was around 30 years old, but was still dressed like a young maiden. She had a round hand fan in her hand, dressed up to the nines with heavy makeup. She smiled like a blooming flower, garish and beautiful, but it did not last long. Feng Ruqing recognized the woman immediately. This was the Wei family's second young lady, Wei Mengjia, also Wei Pinyo's stepsister who shared the same father but different mothers. This Wei Mingji's obvious affection and interest in Qin Sun was no secret to everyone. She had not agreed to any marriage arrangement because she wanted to get her Wei to become his concubine. Wei Mingjia, I thought you came here to visit Pinyao. However, you keep throwing yourself at Qin Sun. What are you actually trying to do? Qin Yi glared at her coldly and chided her without mercy. As a woman, it was natural for her to have a bad impression of Wei Mengjia and loathed her behavior. She had a thick face and kept using visiting Pinyao as an excuse for her to enter the Qin residence. If the Qin family chased her out forcefully, perhaps she might spread rumors about Pinyao. For the sake of Pinyo's reputation, and Mengjia indeed did not do anything overboard, she closed one eye on her behavior. My sister's health is poor, so I cannot keep disturbing her rest. I can only help her take care of brother-in-law, in case nobody takes care of him. Pity him. This is totally presumptuous. Qini was fuming with rage. Are you implying there's nobody else in the Qin residence? No matter what the situation is, there's no need for an outsider to take care of my brother. She had purposely stressed on the word outsider, which annoyed Wei Mengjie. She seemed unsatisfied, which was shown in her frown. Why was she treated as an outsider? But Wei Pinyao could be their own people. She was just a hen which was unable to lay eggs. How could she have the nerve to occupy the position of the young lady of the Qin family? Didn't she feel ashamed of herself? Sister Qini, Wei Mengjie eyed the meal box Feng Ruqing brought and smiled knowingly. Her Royal Highness has dropped by to visit my sister. It is not nice of you to stop her. Moreover, she has even brought some food for her. Could it be possible that you are afraid she might poison my sister? Feng Ruqing shrugged helplessly. She solely intended to pay Wei Pinyao a short visit. Why was she in trouble again? Wei Mengjie, are you aware of your words right now? Qin Yi's eyes turned cold and serious. She took 2 steps forward and rebuked. Firstly, the princess is considered a relative of Pinyao's, so it's normal for her to pay Pinyao a visit. However, you claiming that Her Royal Highness has poisoned the food will definitely tarnish her reputation. What are the consequences of making false charges against Princess Royal? Wei Mengjie was caught dumbfounded. Didn't Qin Yi dislike Feng Ruqing very much? How could she be angry about the princess' reputation sake? In addition, her words were intended to serve as a reminder for Qin Yi. If she managed to annoy Qin Yi and cause her to fight with the princess, it would be the best. However, she never thought that she would be dragged into this planned dispute. Your Royal Highness, I did not mean that. Wei Mengjie quickly turned to Feng Ruqing and defended herself anxiously. Feng Ruqing nodded calmly. Yes, I know that is your intention. It's good that your highness knows. Wei Mengjie could not finish her words as she was startled. Why did she feel that something was wrong with the princess' words? Chapter 132. Let her be the villain I aunt. Feng Ruqing ignored Wei Mengjie and turned to look at Qin Yi with a smile on her face. Who is this woman? Qin Yi pursed her lips disapprovingly. When Qin Yi wanted to respond to the question, Wei Mengjie, who was standing at the side, had recovered from her surprise and responded just before she could say anything. Wei Mengjie gave a mocking smile and introduced herself. Your Royal Highness, I am the daughter of the Wei family, Wei Pinyao's sister. You are Wei Pinyao's sister? How come I never knew Aunt Yao has a sister? Feng Ruqing looked surprised and was in disbelief. Wei Mengjie was startled and a little embarrassed. She uttered awkwardly, I am the daughter of the Wei family's second mistress. Oh, I see. You're only the daughter of a concubine. How dare you call yourself Aunt Yao's sister? Feng Ruqing's lips curved into a mocking smile. She added, as a child of a concubine, you are bold enough to enter the Qin residence with such arrogance. Aunt, why did you let such people enter the Qin residence? Qin Yi threw a sharp glance at Wei Mengjie. She is too thick-faced and overstays her welcome. I have no idea at all. Throw her out, then your problem is solved. Feng Ruqing moved 2 steps nearer and looked down at Wei Mengjie with an arrogant and threatening stare. Or else, let her leave this place on her own. Wei Mengjie felt her mouth twitching. She quickly turned to Qin Yi and protested. Sister Qin Yi, I am still considered as the Wei family's second young lady, whether you like it or not. If you insist on doing what she has said, it will tarnish my sister's reputation. Imagine how other people will condemn her. By comparison, Wei Pinyao's reputation in Lu Yun Kingdom was not any better. A woman who could not conceive, and yet did not allow her husband to take another concubine, was no different from a shrew woman. If she were in her shoes, she would never monopolize Qin Sun and keep him for herself. In fact, she would get many concubines for his sake. Without any warning, Feng Ruqing stepped forward and lifted Wei Mengjie's lapel up with one hand. Then a loud sound could be heard as she was thrown out of the door. At this moment, everyone was in complete shock. They stared at the young lady standing at the entrance with bulging eyes and disbelief. Nobody seemed to be able to recover from their daze as her action was totally unexpected. Wei Mengjie got up in an awkward and embarrassing state. She did not dare to lash out because the culprit was Feng Ruqing. Since she did not have the nerve to go against her, She could only stare at Qin Yi with annoyance. This Qin Yi was already a married woman, but she still wanted to interfere in her parental home's issues. Didn't she feel suffocated with such a minuscule matter? She wondered whether Qin Sun was her biological brother. How could she object her own brother to take a concubine? Previously, Mingji's father was forced by her grandmother to get a concubine, especially after Pinyo's mother could not bear children anymore after giving birth to Pinyo. Grandmother kept shoving different women to her father. If her grandmother hadn't done so, she would not have been present here today. However, this Qin family did not follow the norm. From old lady Qin to Qin Yi, who was married off to another family, both of them supported the Qin Sun couple. Wei Pinyao was the only woman in the Qin household. Aunt, there's no need to treat such shameless people nicely. Feng Ruqing laughed and stepped forward. Throwing her out will do. If you do not have the heart to do so, let me do it. My reputation is already bad enough. This little incident will not affect me at all. Your Royal Highness, although you have authority over us, you cannot stop me from visiting my own sister. Wei Mengjie pleaded with a pathetic and sad look while biting her lip. Her eyes showed that she felt aggrieved by this whole incident. Feng Ruqing did not buy her act. She raised one of her brows menacingly and threatened Wei Mengjie. This is the Qin residence. You can see your sister when she returns to the Wei residence. From now on, you are forbidden to enter the Qin residence. If you dare to go against my instruction, I will command someone to break your legs. If the Qin family could not be the villain, let her take the role. Princess, you are abusing your power to oppress people. Wei Mengjie's face turned red. Chapter 133. Let her be the villain too. She had heard of Feng Ruqing's infamous personality and ill manner, but she had never gotten involved with her before. If she had been bullied by Feng Ruqing before, she definitely would not have dared to talk back in such manner. Abusing my power to oppress people? Feng Ruqing chuckled. She raised her chin slightly. So what if it is true? I like to bully people like you. Abusing power and oppressing people. So what? She loved to bully this kind of people. Qin Yi was stunned upon hearing that. She immediately turned her head to look at Feng Ruqing. Her gaze was full of complicated and indescribable feelings. She usually abhorred Feng Ruqing's power abuse and bullying. However, this time, her arrogance and haughtiness made her feel happy. If you refuse to leave, I will command someone to hit you to death and send your body to the Wei residence. Feng Ruqing diverted her piercing gaze to look at Wei Mengjie and threatened her. She seemed to be looking at a dead body right now. Wei Mengjie was frightened by this deadly gaze. It made her shiver in horror, so she dared not to stay at the Qin residence any longer. She glanced at the Qin residence's courtyard for the last time and left with red puffy eyes. Once the silhouette disappeared, Feng Ruqing diverted her eyes back to Qin Yi and smiled sweetly. Aunt, she has already left. Can we visit Aunt Yao now? Qin Yi was left in a daze. She felt puzzled as her emotions were getting more complicated. You will only tarnish your reputation by acting this way. Feng Ruqing laughed it off. I have already mentioned it earlier, haven't I? My reputation is already bad enough. This is just a small incident. Moreover, the truth will speak for itself, and I do not care about other people misunderstanding me. I only need you to understand me. That's all. She really did not care about how the rest of the world would misunderstand her. From the beginning, she only cared about these people who were important to her. Qin Yi's heart sank. She balled her fists tightly and kept reminding herself about Feng Ruqing's past misdeeds and incivility. She must not fall into her trap. She must not be soft-hearted again. Let's go. Finally, she gave up. She turned to glance at Feng Ruqing and then walked in the direction of the Qin residence's courtyard. Feng Ruqing was on cloud 9 when Qin Yi did not block her outside. She hugged Dyer and gave her a big kiss on the cheek happily. Dyer, is your mother finally willing to give me a chance now? Dyer seemed confused and looked at Feng Ruqing in a daze. Do not worry, Dyer. I won't let you and your family down again. They had been disappointed for too many times, and this was the last chance for her. Dyer showed her sweetest smile and agreed with Feng Ruqing. You are beautiful. Whatever you say are all correct. Was Dyer trying to compliment her or condemn her? You are more beautiful than second princess. Dyrus was serious and genuine when she said this. Feng Ruching lowered her gaze to look at Nalan Dyer. Why is that so? Second princess is bad. She bullies Dyer. Furthermore, father and grandpa had always said that she was the one who influenced her beloved cousin, Feng Ruching, negatively. Thus, she was the most wicked villain in the world. This time, Feng Ruching was left speechless. Perhaps it was only her illusion. She felt that Dyer's intellect and wisdom had somewhat improved. A few months ago, Dyer was still unable to tell people about Feng Ruchuang bullying her. However, she could express her feeling now. Was it because of the spirit herbs? Suddenly, realization hit Feng Ruching. Excessive spiritual qi had managed to awaken the beast's spiritual intelligence. In fact, the spiritual qi contained in spirit herbs was much stronger, so it could help Dyer in this matter. Feng Ruching made a mental note to herself that she must prepare some spirit divine fruit for Dyer later, until she was recovered and became a normal person. You are right. Those people who bully Dyer are villains. Feng Ruching pinched Dyer's cute and chubby face. Last time, I used to be a villain too. Chapter 134. Let her be the villain. 3. Dyer shook her head reluctantly. Cousin isn't a villain. I've seen you save a kitten. Therefore, no matter how much she was hurt in the past, she still wanted to get close to her. Clearly her cousin treated the kitten with so much kindness, then why did she treat her so cruelly? Until she was so afraid and decided to hide away from her. Feng Ruching looked frail, and her fingers were stiff. Although the previous owner of the body liked to bully people, she had a deep love for small animals. Somehow, the kitten that she had saved scratched Feng Ruchuang. As a result, the kitten was killed by concubine Rome. From her point of view, there was nothing more important than Feng Ruchuang. Although she would be sad for a while, she still trusted them. Honestly, the most wicked person is Feng Ruchuang. Feng Ruching's eyes turned icy, which quickly dissipated. She grabbed hold of Dyer's hand and said, I will make Feng Ruchuang pay for this, for all the people and animals which she has hurt. Feng Ruching was not sure whether the kitten had scratched Feng Ruchuang, because when she was back at the palace, the kitten was already dead. As for the scratch marks, she had yet to see. Now it seemed that Feng Ruchuang was happy with the people or animals around Feng Ruching, and because of this, she decided to kill the kitten. Go now. Your mother has already gone far, and my meal is getting cold. Dyer blinked. With her eyes fixed on Feng Ruching's meal box, she swallowed her saliva and replied, all right. At the residence area, Wei Pinyao heard the sound of the door being pushed open. She opened her heavy eyes and looked out of the house. She wanted to sit up, but her body felt weak. After struggling momentarily, she was still unable to get up. Pinyao. Qin Yi's facial expression changed as she quickly walked toward Pinyao's side. Her eyes were filled with concern. You're not feeling well, just lie down. Cough. Wei Pinyao coughed twice. Her cheeks were pale. Sister, has the princess gone back? Qin Yi was stunned. She did not know why, but she allowed Feng Ruching to visit Pinyao. She licked her lips as she replied, the princess wants to visit you. Wei Pinyao gently smiled and said, I guess, sister, you didn't agree to her proposition but accepted it unwillingly. Actually, I'm not that weak. Some words can't hurt me. You all are just too protective over me. Those words were not just the words of the princess. Even the people of Lu Yun Kingdom had personally gossiped about her like this. Even so, what about it? She will never leave Qin Sun's side. Never will. Pinyao, Qin Yi sighed. She promised to let her in. Just like what her husband has said, she's giving her a chance. Her words have yet to leave her mouth. The sound of heavy footsteps rang loudly at the door. Qin Yi raised her head to look back and saw Feng Ruching holding Dyer's hands walking through the front door. The young girl's smile was gleaming. Maybe it's the obvious plump body of hers. Nevertheless, the two of them looked amazing together. Impressive. Aunt Yao, I heard that you're sick. I've purposely prepared some healthy supplementary food for you. Feng Ruching smiled while walking towards the bed. Aunt, you should ask the maid to prepare some bowls and chopsticks for you. Qin Yi looked at the sky. It seems to be getting late now, but letting Pinyao dine on the meal that Feng Ruching prepared would be quite risky. The meal has been prepared by the kitchen. There's no need for the princess to be so worked up about it. Chini furrowed her brows and refused Feng Rooking's good intentions. Chapter 135. Let her be the villain for the meal that I've prepared is different from those prepared by the kitchen. Aunt, don't you trust me? Unless you're afraid that I've poisoned the food, you can always look for someone to test it first. Even if the medicinal herbs were added into the herbal dish, it was actually good for health. Plus, this time round, she's only created some qi replenishing herbal dish, so it should not do any harm to the person taking it. Just when Chini was still hesitant, Dyer brought out some tableware, opened the meal box and took out a piece of dark-boned chicken meat and placed it into a bowl. Dyer! Chini was pale from shock. She wanted to stop her, but it was a little too late. Dyer had already bitten into the chicken's flesh and was gobbling it down the delicious food. Mother, why don't you and Aunt join me? It's delicious. Feng Rooking's facial expression turned dark. Dyer, where did you get the tableware from? Dyer blinked as she replied, when cousin was boiling the soup. I kind of stole it, was afraid that all of you wouldn't let Dyer eat. Her cousin had said from the beginning that this meal was specially prepared for her aunt, so what if they did not allow her to eat? Hence, she stole some tableware. If they decided to not give her a portion of the food, she would take it on her own. Don't you know that this is very impolite? Feng Rooking gently brushed Dyer's head. Dyer thought for a moment and said, but mother is not eating, so Dyer shall eat it to show her how delicious it is. Feng Rooking thought for a while, only to realize that Dyer was just afraid that her mother and Aunt Yao were not willing to eat the prepared meal. Hence, she ate it first to show them that it was safe. Dyer, Chini had her eyes locked on her. Are you all right? Dyer's little chubby and rosy face glowed adorably. It's delicious. Mother, let's eat. Looking at Dyer safely consuming the meal, Chini heaved a sigh of relief. Her eyes were apologetic as she looked at Feng Rooking. My apologies, princess. I've misunderstood your intentions. Feng Rooking smiled. Aunt being nervous and cautious is just. I used to do a lot of bad things in the past, and it's understandable that you don't trust me entirely. Plus, you were worried about Aunt Yao's health. I understand. Wei Pinyao struggled to sit up from her bed that was situated atop the beautifully carved bed frame. She seemed unconvinced and astonished that Feng Rooking would say such things. She was skeptical about Feng Rooking's intentions. Sister, Wei Pinyao looked up and saw Chini. Her face looked like she was still trying to understand the current situation. Chini smiled while trying to comfort Wei Pinyao. Since this meal will not give you diarrhea, then you can eat with ease. Don't let her efforts go to waste. Regardless of whether was she willing to forgive Feng Rooking, the most important thing now was to stay alive. So she would most certainly choose to accept her kindness. But there were just too many thorns in her heart. To pluck them all out would be too difficult a task. Too difficult. Maid, bring the tableware for the lady.
Yes.
The maid quickly went to retrieve the tableware. Shortly after, the maid returned with the requested items. She then proceeded to fill the bowl to the brim with soup and brought it to Pinyo's bedside. Cough. Wei Pinyo coughed again. Her face was pale and her body was frail. It looked like she would collapse from a gentle breeze. Frail-looking Wei Pinyo still looked more beautiful than Wei Mengjia, who wore heavy makeup. It was no wonder Qin Sun was so deeply in love with her. In order to prevent her from suffering, he was willing to not have a child. Chapter 136. Taking herbs? The chicken soup was refreshing and fragrant. It has a tinge of herbal scent which relieved Wei Pinyo's cough. She no longer coughed as frequently as before. This soup, Wei Pinyo took another spoonful of soup which was fed by her maid. She tasted a trace of strange flavor within the soup. She looked up in surprise and her eyes were filled with confusion. What kind of herbs did you add? Chini was taken aback. Herbs could not be simply taken. Even more shocking was the fact that she has never heard of rejuvenating meals being laced with herbs. That's why she felt anxious and worried after listening to Pinyo's words. That's right. Feng Rooking grinned. In the past, I've heard Uncle talked about Aunt Yao's bad health. There's a medicine that can replenish qi. If one were to constantly use it, it will alter the physique and make it strong. On the contrary, this medicine must not be overly consumed. Once a day shall suffice. These medicinal herbs are harmless to normal people, thus enabling people to consume without side effects. Nevertheless, medicinal herbs were still medicine. It would eventually affect the body even if it were a little. No wonder my body feels rejuvenated from drinking this soup. It's like my weakness has faded away. Wei Pinyo's brows furrowed as her pale face gained its luster. With a gentle smile, she said, "But this is the first time I'm hearing about medicine-infused food." Feng Ruqing didn't add any spirit herbs into the meal. Therefore, she only felt as if her body has gained a slight bit of energy as compared to before. She could finally get up from bed with ease. Although the difference isn't big, to the bedridden Wei Pinyao, this was a silver lining of hope. "Pinyao, please allow me to check your pulse." Qin Yi quickly reached out and pressed onto Wei Pinyo's pulse. She did not utter a single word during the whole process. After a while, she slowly pushed herself up and spoke with a soft voice. "Pinyo's pulse indicates that her condition has stabilized. Princess, I'm so sorry for doubting you." She didn't forget how evil and cunning Feng Ruqing was in the past. That was why when Feng Ruqing suddenly decided to treat them so nicely, it was unavoidable to doubt her intentions. Feng Ruqing understood this, and she forced a little smile. "Aunt and Aunt Yao, as long as you are able to forgive me for my past actions, they'll be grateful. The rest is irrelevant." Seeing the current Feng Ruqing, Wei Pinyo's heart was delighted. The general and three great families had been on good terms for generations, while she and Empress Nailin had been friends for many years. If Feng Ruqing really was willing to change, then it would be good for both the country and the Nailin family. People aren't saints. Who can be pure and free of evil? Now that princess is more understanding, that will suffice. Whatever's in the past shall stay in the past. Sister, you two don't have to constantly hold on to the past. At least for your husband and Empress Nailin, please forgive her for her past mistakes." Qin Yi smiled helplessly and said, "You're now the protagonist. Can I not be the antagonist then? As long as you stop hurting the Nailin family, that will be more than enough for me." She was able to stop hating her, but she would never be able to get close to her like they once were 10 years ago. Wei Pinyao smiled. Although tough on the outside, her sister was still a softie. She did not say that she would forgive the princess entirely. In order for her to let go of the entire grudge was kind of an impossible task, but she believed that if the princess was willing to change, Qin Yi would one day like her as much as she did in the past. The princess had a good nature. It was just that she was influenced by bad people. Chapter 137. Taking Herbs? "To Princess, how did you come across this herbal dish?" Qin Yi asked as she remembered about the herbal soup which helped her heal at such astonishing speed. Feng Ruqing rubbed the tip of her nose. She was about to pin the contribution onto someone else's back, but since she has already admitted to being the one who came up with this herbal recipe, it was a little difficult to shake it off her back now. "Aunt, I found this recipe by accident. I was bored and I decided to experiment with herbal dishes. I accidentally added herbs into the meal and coincidentally, I had a flu that day. So, I decided to try it and it cured me. From that day onward, I researched a little more on the preparation of herbal dishes." Feng Ruqing was silent for a brief moment before continuing. "It's just that, in the past, the impact of the finding wasn't that huge of a deal. Therefore, I didn't bother informing other people about it. Now that I am almost done with the research, I have nothing to hide from both of you anymore." Qin Yi's brow furrowed, and with a harsh tone she spoke, "Princess, how could you add herbs into a meal? It was your good luck that nothing happened. What if you were careless? What would have happened to you?" This girl dreams big and took a bold move. Without any prior knowledge of herbs, she took a bet. It seems that Qin Yi was indeed lucky. No matter how much she hated Feng Ruqing, she would never want anything bad to happen to her. Luckily, Empress Nailin was protecting her from the shadows. "Aunt, I know you're worried about me, but I am really fine. Look at me. Am I not all right?" Feng Ruqing smiled joyfully. "But from my observations, Aunt seems to be overworked recently. You looked worn out. Maybe one day I'll research on a herbal dish that can rejuvenate your beauty." Qin Yi's face was stiff. Did she just worry about Feng Ruqing? She was just Most probably it was because of the relationship between the Empress and the Nalan family. That was why she was worried about her. Aunt Yao's infertility was caused by fetal poisoning, right? After Feng Ruching entered the room, she inspected Wei Pinyo's body. Her infertility was caused by the poison she received when she was still in her mother's womb. The accumulated toxicity in the uterus could not be removed, which led to her the inability to conceive a child. Even if she were capable of giving birth, in her current condition, her body could not endure it. It is indeed pregnancy poisoning. This is no secret to the three major families, and the perpetrator has already been executed. Somehow, Qini had a feeling that the perpetrator was only a pawn. The person behind the poisoning must be someone else. Aunt, you should be glad that Aunt Yao can't get pregnant. Qini was taken aback. With narrowed eyes she asked, "What do you mean, princess? It is a very painful thing that Pin Yao can't get pregnant. Why should I be grateful for such a curse?" Because, Feng Ruching glanced at Wei Pin Yao gently. Judging by the love that Uncle Sun has for Aunt Yao, he will definitely want to conceive a child with her. But the pregnancy can be dangerous to Aunt Yao due to the poison and her current physique. Giving birth would be a bigger problem. Lu Yun Kingdom's medicinal knowledge was too little. One small mistake would be sufficient to take Wei Pinyo's life. That's why it was good that she couldn't conceive. Wei Pinyao smiled and said, "Even if I have to suffer and endanger my life, I will want to give birth to a child for him." Qini was silent. Feng Ruching stated the truth. Pinyao would be putting her life at risk if she were to try to conceive a child. It was indeed fortunate that she was infertile. "Aunt Yao, you don't have to be disheartened. I'll give you the recipe. Just remember to boil the soup every day according to the recipe. Try to recover your physique first, then think of a way to solve the fetal poisoning issue." Chapter 138. Taking Herbs? 3. Am I really capable of conceiving? Pinyo's eyes were filled with disbelief yet hope. Feng Ruching held onto Wei Pinyo's hand. "Aunt Yao, there's definitely a way. Trust me." If it were not for her lack of ability in sowing stronger spirit herbs, she would have detoxified her poison a long time ago. Even if you were willing to spend a fortune, it was difficult to get hold of spirit herbs. Wei Pinyao trembled. As long as she was able to give birth to a child, she was willing to offer up anything. "Pinyao, the princess is right. All you need to do now is to recuperate and get your health back on track. Once you're physically healthy again, conceiving a child will be possible. As long as you're not restored back to full health, Sun won't allow you to conceive a child." Qini sighed. Children were important, but to Sun, nothing was more important than Wei Pinyao. "I understand. From tomorrow onward, I will work hard to recuperate. Thank you so much, princess. If I am able to give birth, I will never forget the grace you've shown me." Wei Pinyo's eyes were red. Being unable to give birth, she had been suffering emotionally for so many years. "Aunt, it's getting late now. I should get going." Feng Ruching stretched a little and smiled. She could already see Qini's attitude toward her had changed drastically. Today's visit had definitely gone well. "I'll send you on your way then." Qini groaned as she stood up. "All right." Qini's kindness was not something Feng Ruching would like to refuse. She smiled as she looked at Wei Pinyao. "Aunt Yao, they'll come for a visit again." Wei Pinyao smiled and nodded. Until the two figures disappeared from view, she kept her gaze fixated upon them. Sister Nalan, the princess really did change. Finally, there can be peace in the Nalan family. That's great. In the middle of the hall, Qin Feiyang sat on the main seat. On his left, Qin Sun seemed to be uneasy. His eyes glanced about from time to time, and they were filled with worry. Qin Feiyang was already an elderly man. How could he not see that Qin Sun was worried about Wei Pinyao? He shook his head as he spoke. "Sun, if you can't sit still, then why don't you take your leave first?" After speaking those words, he turned to two guests and said, "Commander Chao, young Master Chao. My apologies for the commotion." Sitting next to Qin Feiyang was a middle-aged man. The middle-aged man was masculine and sturdy, and at his side was a young and handsome man. If Feng Ruching was around, she would be able to tell that this man had been through a lot. "Haha, young Master Qin and his wife are deeply in love. It is a well-known thing, so it's normal for him to be worried. How could I not understand that?" Qin Sun was delighted that he was given the chance to leave. He quickly paid his respects and left. Just as he was about to leave, he saw a person restlessly waiting outside. Although this person did not personally take care of Wei Pinyao, she was still someone Wei Pinyao brought from her family. When he saw her walking around anxiously, Qin Sun could not help but feel a sense of unease. Hong Shui, why aren't you by the lattice side? Why are you here? Hong Shui raised her head. Her heart filled with joy and her eyes were filled with worry. She was part of the dowry that was given by Madame Wei to Lady Wei. At first she thought that she would be the lattice personal maid. Instead, she was assigned to the manor, not allowed to stay by the lattice side. Chapter 139. Taking Herbs? For it had been more than 10 years, but she was still unable to get close to young Master Qin. She was adamant, thinking that she could rise up to the ranks and refuse to get married. With Madame Wei's support of her, Wei Pinyao could not get rid of this thorn in her flesh. And now, her chance had finally come. And now, her chance has arrived. Previously, she saw the princess bringing Dyer to the lattice chambers, and somehow overheard them talking about some meal being laced with herbs. No doubt she did not have the right to enter the room to serve the lady. She overheard the princess and Dyer talking about it when she was passing by. Dyer was not well informed of the whole situation. Naturally, she did not know the meaning of adding herbs into the meal. But of all things to do, she did not inform the young master of the prince's visit. Instead, she only informed him after some time had passed, since the princess had entered the room. She figured that the poison had already taken effect. Judging from the lattice physique, she would not be able to endure this for too long. She came forward happily thinking that she could leave a good impression on her master. Young master, Hong Shui bit her lips as she spoke. Just a moment ago, I saw the princess. She went to the lattice room. What? Qin Sun was pale from fright. That evil wrench went looking for trouble with Yaoer? Heck, why didn't anyone inform him? The princess has arrived? Chao Yang stood up immediately. Although almost as nervous as Qin Sun, he seemed to be filled with excitement. Naturally, Hong Shui did not notice Chao Yang's expression. Her sight was fixated on Qin Sun. Young master, the princess didn't only just come for a visit. She also brought along a meal and wanted to give it to the lady. I even heard that she added some sort of herb into the meal. Young master better hurry, or else the lady will die. Sob, sob. Hong Shui's tears flowed down her cheeks. If anything were to happen to the lady, I wouldn't want to live anymore. Qin Sun did not care whether Hong Shui was dead or alive. He rushed towards her and shouted angrily. Why didn't you inform me earlier that the princess went looking for Yaoer? Hong Shui was nervous, her face pale. I thought that the princess wouldn't do anything bad to the lady, but after much consideration, I was too worried for the lady. Therefore, I decided to inform you, young master. Qin Sun began to worry even more. He was just about to rush out when he heard Chao Yang's loud laugh from behind. Did you just say that the princess added some sort of herb to the healthy dish? That's great. The princess had brought the herbal dish, so the lady of the Qin family could finally be saved. Who knew that right after he had said that? Qin Sun turned around furiously and swung his fist at Chao Yang, sending Chao Yang flying. He'll come after you after I've saved Yaoer. That bastard. He was already panicking, and yet he said that the princess did a great thing by adding a herb into the meal. He didn't have the courage to deal with the princess, but he could always settle his affairs with Chao Yang. Chao Yang was stunned. Commander Chao got mad. He slammed his fist onto the table and shouted angrily. Young Master Qin, due to my respect toward Master Qin, I have given you a lot of leeway. Instead of appreciating it, you punched Yaoer. I will not tolerate this. We will have to settle this debt before you leave. Qin Sun laughed coldly. The princess is trying to poison my wife. Instead of being worried, he has the guts to laugh at my misery. Shouldn't I punch him? I don't have the time to discuss nonsense with you. He'll be back later to settle on this matter. He was worried about Wei Pinyo's safety, so he did not have time to deal with Chao Yang. Before he could walk out of the hall, Chao Yang's angry voice rang aloud. Qin Sun, how dare you hit me? I've never been hit, not even by my dad, and here you are, punching me. You aren't leaving unless we clear this up. Was he wrong? He was just feeling happy that Lady Qin could finally be saved. Instead, this bastard punched him. Kindness does not always beget kindness. Chapter 140. I will never marry another woman, Chao Yang. You're a commander's son. If it weren't for my respect for General Nalan, do you think that I would only punch you once? Qin Sun laughed coldly as he flipped his sleeve and left. Chao Yang was red with anger. His body moved and stood in front of Qin Sun. You've punched me. Don't you even dare to walk out of here. Scram. Qin Sun roared in fury. He tightened his fist till it made cracking noises and greenish veins were popping under his skin. Qin Feiyang and Commander Chao quickly stood up. He frowned and said, Sooner, calm down. I know you're worried about Pinyo's health, but you can't vent your anger upon others. Although Chao Yang's father was only a commander, he had a good relationship with Zhang Qian. Even so, he shouldn't be doing this. Younger, Commander Chaos swept a gaze at his own son. You're normally very calm and collected. Why is it you said such a thing on this very day? Even though he was mad at Qin Sun for his actions, but nevertheless, it was Chao Yang's fault to begin with. Even so, he still believed that his son would not say such a thing on a whim. The princess brought a herb dish for Lady Qin. I was honestly feeling happy for her, but in the end, Qin Sun didn't think it through and decided to punch me. Am I not innocent? The more he thought about it, the angrier he became. His kind gesture was misunderstood and misinterpreted. How could he remain calm? Qin Sun's emotion had gotten the better of him. His anger took over his rationale. Ignoring whatever Chao Yang had just said, Qin Sun threw another punch at Chao Yang. In the blink of an eye, Qin Feiyang appeared in front of Chao Yang, blocking his punch. Sooner, don't be emotional. Qin Feiyang frowned at Qin Sun and then shifted his gaze to Chao Yang. Young Master Chao, did you just say that the princess brought a herbal dish? Chao Yang replied sarcastically. Remember the time I've told all of you about the scar-removing herbal dish? That was given to me by the princess. And now the princess brought some herbal dish for the lady, so the lady should get better. Instead of acknowledging people's goodwill, Qin Sun decided to attack me. Qin Sun wanted to vent his anger, but some of the things that Chao Yang said rang in his ears, and he faltered during his speech. What did you just say? Not long ago, Chao Yang received a prescription which could remove scars. He raised that topic today, hoping that Qin Feiyang and he could head over to the general manor and present it as a gift to Nalan Zhangqian. That's why the words herbal dish was not something foreign to Qin Sun. So that's why a smile appeared upon Qin Feiyang's face. The princess has already turned over a new leaf. She will never hurt Pinyao. Plus, there's ear by Pinyao's side. You don't have to be overly concerned. Sooner, you have indeed overreacted. Plus, you've hurt young Master Chao. Qin Sun was speechless. That evil wench turned over a new leaf? How can he believe that? Father, why do you trust the princess? Qin Sun's eyes were filled with surprise as he turned to face Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang chuckled as he said, Do you remember the spirit wine that I drank at the general's manor? That wine was gifted to the general by the princess. Even if the princess accidentally bought such good wine, the general already told her the value of the wine. But she insisted that the general accept her gift. Do you think that the princess of the past would present such a valuable item to the Nalan family? I'm afraid she would have given it as a sign of loyalty to noble consort Rome. Qin Feiyang's face lit up with a huge smile, but after thinking about Qin Sun's overreaction, his face sank a little. On another note, you owe young Master Chao an apology. Chapter 141. I will never marry another woman. Tu Chao Yang gave a cold sigh and turned his head, not wanting to look at Qin Sun. There was an awkward expression on Qin Sun's face. Young Master Chao, I overreacted. After hearing that Wei Pinyao was safe, his anxious heart finally calmed down. Ahem. Commander Chao gave out a dry cough, breaking up the awkward atmosphere. Young Master Qin was only worried about his wife. We've all been there. I can relate. You should quickly go back to your wife. Yes. Qin Sun's eyes lit up. His heart had already left and flown back to Wei Pinyo's side. After hearing those words, he quickly made his way to the backyard. ignoring the still angry Chao Yang. You can leave now. Expressionless, Qin Feiyang coldly brushed Hong Shui away. Hong Shui clenched her fist tightly. She was dissatisfied that Wei Pinyao had not been poisoned, but she did not have the courage to utter a single word. She paid her respects and left. Young Master Chao. Qin Feiyang's gaze turned to face Chao Yang. That herbal dish, was it really something the princess researched on? Chao Yang's eyes gleamed. You're right. The princess. She's actually a genius, a real genius. All this while, the people have misunderstood her. Ha ha ha. Qin Feiyang laughed in a relaxed manner. If the old general knows about it, he'll definitely be comforted and happy. Even Empress Nalan can be at peace of mind. Night shadowed the princess' manor, enveloping it in the serenity of the cold moonlight's glow. As soon as Feng Ruqing strode into the princess' manor, she immediately saw Qing Ling curled up in a corner, shivering. Directly in front of her, the earth bear and other beasts were roaming around in the darkness of the night, gigantic and strong. Princess. Qing Ling instantly saw the princess, which just stepped foot into the manor as if her savior just appeared. Unable to hold back her tears, she cried. This beast came from nowhere and even brought along a whole horde of spirit beasts. Please save me. All these while, Feng Ruqing had never returned to the princess manor. Even when she was preparing herbal dishes, she used the palace's imperial kitchen. Therefore, this group of spirit beasts must be led here by the snow wolf. In the end, Qing Ling was terrified as she saw so many spirit beasts invading the manor. She was scared stiff, unmoving. She was afraid that once she made a move, the spirit beasts would rush forward and kill her. Seeing Qing Ling's pale, frightened face, Feng Ruqing's face turned grim. She walked casually towards the earth bear and smacked its thick skull. Let me introduce them. These are the spirit beasts that I've worked hard for. You don't have to be afraid of them. They won't eat humans as long as they're full. As long as they're full, they won't eat humans? Qing Ling was so terrified that she was about to cry. Princess, what if they're not full? Wouldn't I, your humble servant, become their meal? Princess, what have I done wrong? Pray do tell. I can change. Even if Princess wants me as a sex slave, I wouldn't refuse. She would rather be tricked by the princess than to be a spirit beast's meal. It was definitely during that time where the princess was drunk where Qing Ling and Luli did not listen to the princess. Was that why the princess brought these spirit beasts back to teach them a lesson? She would change. She was willing to change everything. Would this be okay? What kind of nonsense are you spouting? Feng Ruqing swept a glance at Qing Ling. It's impossible that they're not well fed. You don't have to overthink this. After this, I'm heading over to the mountain out back to work. You can head back to rest. Qing Ling nodded obediently. She then gathered her courage and stood up, slowly and carefully moving past the group of spirit beasts. After she was far enough, she let out a sigh of relief and quickly made her way toward the backyard. Chapter 142. I will never marry another woman. 3. Looking at Qing Ling's hasty retreat as if a ghost was tailing her, Feng Ruqing shook her head. She then gently turned to face the horde of spirit beasts. From today onwards, little Wolfie will be my manor's guardian. Within this manor, all of you have to obey his words. Without my permission, the spirit herbs at the back hill not allowed to be consumed. If I find out that you have disobeyed my orders, I will dismiss the culprit. The spirit beasts were stunned, exchanging gaze between themselves. Dismiss? What does that mean? Feng Ruqing's expression grimed. Dismiss means, I will cancel my contract with you and release you back to the Beast Mountain. Plus, you will never be able to receive your reward anymore. After hearing those words, the spirit beasts began to feel anxious. They were all here to feast on the divine spirit fruit. If they were dismissed, then they would never get their hands on the divine spirit fruit. Of course, if all of you were to listen and obey, I wouldn't deny you your privileges. Instead, I might even give you an extra meal portion. Feng Ruqing smiled happily. Oh, whoa. The snow wolf began howling. Compared to the happiness in taking over the position as the guardian of the manor, it was more elated hearing that it would receive more meals. Little Wolfie, bring them to the hill behind, and let the four-armed ape teach them how to sow spirit herbs. Feng Ruching relaxed her jaw. Since now that the manor has enough spirit beasts, she should be teaching the four-armed ape the spirit herb dish recipe. Well, since making herbal dishes was different from sowing spirit herbs, it required someone who could handle kitchen utensils, and the only candidate available for this was the four-armed ape. Plus, I don't know when the state preceptor will be back, the young lady gently sighed. She cast a distant gaze at the crescent moon. It was during nights like these that the scenery looked as if she were staring at a divine being's cold back. The state preceptor clearly stated that he would only leave for a month. So hasn't he returned? She desperately wishes to sleep by his side. What should she do? The night was cold and lonely. The peaceful gleaming moon shone right through the thick canopy of tree leaves, shining upon the man's pure white shirt. His silhouette was that of a divine being, pure and not bound by the materials of the mortal world. Beautiful beyond compare. It was just that, but on his mind, he was not as cool and collected. It was like he had seen through it all, as though no one was worthy of his attention. "I've finally found you." A charming laughter burst out from behind. Nan Xian. Nan Xian exudes a coldness which made others feel distant, unable to get close no matter what. "What are you doing here?" Under the moonlight, the woman's red dress radiated. Her smile was enchanting, irresistible to men. "I've heard that you've been to a place called Lu Yun Kingdom or something. Even became a little state preceptor. I even heard that you're looking for a woman. I know my own worth. Hee hee. I'm just curious to see what kind of woman would make you feel this way." Nan Xian turned around. The moonlight landed on his masculine face, beautiful like a divine being. He donned a white shirt, which swayed in the wind, looking just like a painting. Her eyes would not stop ogling. Regretfully, she knew, a guy like this, he was definitely never going to marry another wife in this lifetime. This kind of man would never be tainted by women. This was his fate. Nan Xian. The young lady giggled and slowly advanced toward Nan Xian, but she stopped about 5 meters away from him. This was the state preceptor Nan Xian's strength. He would not let anyone come too close to him, even if it were the young lady. She did not have the courage to push the boundaries. Chapter 143. State Preceptor's tricks. Nan Xian's expression was cold. His eyes were fierce and fearless. "My business has nothing to do with all of you." The lady let out a throaty, seductive laugh. The laugh would have made everyone bow down in front of her pomegranate red dress willingly. Of course, this was not the case. The man in front of her was no ordinary man. His expression was still as cold as ever, and he did not even waver. "Nan Xian, you're willing to let go of your self-worth for a mere woman? Do you think those people would allow it?" She laughed hysterically. "Don't you ever forget who you really are." Boom. With a grim expression, Nan Xian reached out his palms. Powerful energy was fired from his palms and pierced through the latticed chest. Her body was pushed backward. She quickly clung onto a nearby tree branch, afraid of falling embarrassingly onto the ground. "Whatever my status is, has nothing to do with all of you." Nan Xian paced slowly towards the lady, his eyes fixed upon the lady who's in front of him. His beautiful complexion was exposed by the moonlight. "Since I'm not hiding my whereabouts, it kind of already showed you that I'm not afraid of you people giving her trouble." The lattice smile froze. She then raised her head. In the moonlight, her beautiful face looked horrified. "Nan Xian, are you really not afraid? Or did he mean that he did not care about that woman? That was why he was not afraid if people went looking for her? All of you can go looking for her, but whatever happened next, no one will be able to bear the consequences." Nan Xian walked by the lattice side. His eyes were no longer fixated upon her. "And those who I chose to protect, no one will be able to even get close enough to harm her." His voice soft like the wind, yet the impact was strong like brass. His words were etched onto the lattice heart. She could not believe that she had misjudged the situation. It had never crossed her mind that Nan Xian would go to such lengths to protect somebody. Plus, it was a woman? Oh. Unexpectedly, she let out a soft laugh. The more Nancian cared for a woman, the more curious she became. But everyone knew about Nancian's temper. To pay a visit to the one he's protecting would trigger his rage. The current Nancian might be too strong for them to overcome. Nevertheless, moments ago, he had the intention of killing her. But the more he stops me from going, the more I want to know. The lattice fingers gently pressed onto her red lips while wearing an alluring smile. She believed that if it were not for those who were supporting her and her usefulness, Nancian wouldn't have spared her life. This is the first time Nancian had ever intended to kill her. The lady lifted her head, staring at the man who was walking further and further away under the pale moonlight. And it was at this time, a gurgling feeling came thrusting out of her abdomen. She quickly grabbed her abdomen, but before she could find a place to relieve herself, she squealed as a foul stench came wafting over. Her face was pale. She had defecated in her pants. Once she could not think. Not long after, the same feeling emerged again. There wasn't a bathroom around. To solve the problem, she quickly lifted her skirt and defecated on the spot. At first, she could not wrap her mind on the matter on hand. After calming down, she realized that something was amiss. The pressure of Nancian's palm energy carried a gentle scent. She did not know what it was when it hit her, but now she realized. Nancian did not just throw a punch at her. He even injected her with laxatives. Chapter 144. State Preceptor's Tricks 2, Lady Zhuang Wan. Of all times, they had to appear at this moment. A few people in white clothes emerged out of thin air. The moment they landed on the ground, they quickly covered their noses. Then, when they saw Zhuang Luan squatting on the ground doing her business, everyone was stunned. One Zhuang Luan was shocked. After a moment gathering her thoughts, she screamed angrily. "What are all of you still stunned for?" The group of people regained consciousness and quickly turned around, facing their backs against her. Their faces were still clearly red from blushing. Zhuang Luan's beauty knew no bounds, but all these years, there had never been a man who was able to get close to her, not to mention being able to see her in such an up-close manner. Logically speaking, after the arrival of these people, Zhuang Luan should immediately put her skirt down, but because her diarrhea kept flowing, she would once again soil it. Therefore, she could only remain squatted, afraid to get up. "Who told all of you of my whereabouts? Who gave you permission to come forth?" The person in white with a red face who stood at the front replied in embarrassment. "We saw young Master Nancian a moment ago. It was him. He was the one who told us of your whereabouts, saying that you were injured. Therefore Nancian." Right until now, how did Zhuang Luan not realize that she was being tricked by Nancian? Firstly, he made her purge uncontrollably. Then he intentionally informed a bunch of people to look for her. And now, soiling her good name. That bastard. Where did he learn all these dirty tricks from? She would never forgive the person who taught Nancian all these tricks. At the Princess Manor. At that moment, Feng Ruching sneezed and snorted. "Who's cursing me?" Qin Shun stood in front of Feng Ruching. His eyes were bright as he smiled lightly. "Qingqing is so beautiful. I'm sure you have many suitors that are talking about you." Feng Ruching gently touched the back of her head. "But I don't think so." "Well, whatever. I've pissed off too many people. Those who are talking bad things about me can form a line from the southern city to the northern city. Since when was I ever worried about that?" "Qingqing, it's getting late. You should rest soon." "Sure." "Oh yes. Wolfie, please follow me to the Imperial Palace tomorrow." The State Preceptor had yet to return, so she had to pay a visit to the little snake to ask for help, then force him to spill the news about the State Preceptor. Within Lu Yun Kingdom, there were many sources of spirit herbs, but they could not keep up with the demand. The most famous of them all was still the one called Paramount. After arriving at Paramount's spirit herb store, Feng Ruching's footsteps stopped. She suddenly fell into deep thought. She then turned and walked toward the spirit herb store. Like a guard, Qin Shun followed Feng Ruching closely from behind as she walked into the spirit herb store. At that moment, when the people saw the figure who walked in through the door, they were stunned. Their eyes were filled with amazement. The princess was notoriously well known. The men and women were terrified of her. Most of them would not even want to meet her in their lifetime. At the counter, Tan Shuang's enchanting face looked up with a beautiful smile. Right before her was a grade 2 spirit herb. She seemed to be asking about the price. At Tan Shuang's side stood a graceful middle-aged woman. She looked at Tan Shuang's with eyes filled with love and kindness, and her lips were raised into a curve. Chapter 145. State Preceptor's Tricks 3. Suddenly, the quiet atmosphere of the spirit herb store startled them. As they turned to look at the direction where the stares of the people had gathered, they saw a huge, mountain-like figure. Even though Feng Ruqing had lost a lot of weight and slimmed down, she was still akin to the size of a large mountain compared to Tan Shuang. The middle-aged woman sensed Tan Shuang's uneasiness, so she patted her hand and comforted her with a smile. Immediately, her cold eyes looked upon Feng Ruqing as she bowed politely and said, "Greetings, Your Royal Highness." Feng Ruqing frowned a little. She didn't anticipate her meeting with Lu Yuqin's mother and Tan Shuang at the spirit herb store. In the past, it was because of the princess that Lady Lu fainted due to her uncontrollable anger, which led to Lu Qian abandoning the princess that indirectly caused the death of the princess in the Chancellor's manor. Seeing Feng Ruqing silently standing there, Lady Lu felt a knot in her heart. No matter how the princess acted, the Lu family had always shown her respect. The princess not only forbade Tan Shuang to enter the manor, but she also did not allow Yuqin to take in concubines. Plus, she even got rid of all Yuqin's concubines. Even though the princess did all those, Lady Lu still respected her and would not cause her any trouble. Sadly, Yuqin did not like Feng Ruqing. Aside from Feng Ruqing's family background, all her other traits were not as good as Tan Shuang. That was why she would rather allow Tan Shuang to marry into her household than to have a member of the imperial family which was obnoxiously rude. "Princess." Tan Shuang lowered her gaze as she spoke in a frail manner, inducing empathy from others. "I know you're angry that I snatched Yuqin from you, but I've already talked to Yuqin. From now onward, I shall no longer force him to love me. I just hope that your highness will just spare the Chancellor's household." Lady Lu quickly grabbed hold of Tan Shuang's hand. Her heart stung with pride and happiness. Shuang, my dear child, you're too kind-hearted. It must be painful for you to do this." With a pale look upon her face, Tan Shuang shook her head. She replied with a smile, "Aunt Lu, Shuanger isn't suffering. It's only natural for a man to have 3 of 4 wives. How can Shuanger ever force him to be with only me for the rest of his life? If Yuqin has more women, then there will be more people helping the Lu family to give birth to the new generation, keeping the bloodline going. Shuanger will be beyond happy, so what's there to suffer? You're just comforting me. How can you not feel the pain in your heart? No one will ever want to share their man. But you're willing to do this for Yuqin. This proves that you're the only one in the world who would love Yuqin with all of your heart." Lady Lu patted Tan Shuang's hand. She smiled a little and said, "Don't you worry. I will definitely let Yuqin officially marry you and welcome you into our home." Her words were spoken intentionally in front of Feng Ruqing. Feng Ruqing loved Yuqin deeply. In Liu's household, other than the concubines, everyone else obeyed her orders, but Lady Lu didn't even bat an eyelid at her. She could treat anyone cruelly, but in order to win Lu Yuqin's heart, she did not have the guts to mistreat Lady Lu. Feng Ruqing laughed. Her laughter was sudden. It rang aloud in the quiet spirit herb store. Lady Lu raised her brows, then faced Feng Ruqing and asked, "What's the meaning of this, princess?" "Oh, nothing. I totally agree with you. In this world, there's no one else as matching as Tan Shuang and Lu Yuqin. I honestly and sincerely wish them all the happiness in this world. I hope that they will never be apart from one another. At least they won't go around hurting other people." Lady Lu didn't understand her meaning at first, but after a moment, it struck her. Her eyes were filled with disbelief. Chapter 146. State Preceptor's Tricks 4. What did the princess mean? Did she give up on Yuqin? Or, as Shuang believed, she was just pretending like she did not care? "Princess, Yuqin and Shuang are a match made in heaven, but I wish that your highness wouldn't bully Shuang. She is a nice and gentle lady. She can't endure being pursued by anyone." Lady Liu's temper flared up a bit. If Feng Ruqing were not of royal descent, did she think that she could be a part of the Chancellor's family? Although her status was that of royalty, the only daughter-in-law that she would accept was none other than Tan Shuangshuang. Pursue Tan Shuangshuang? Feng Ruqing let out a loud laugh. Lady Liu, you're thinking too much. I'm not even a man. Why would I pursue her? In fact, even if I were a man, the two palace maids in my manor are both very pretty. Why would I pursue Tan Shuangshuang instead of the two of them? Lady Liu was stunned. What kind of statement was that? Why would only guys pursue Tan Shuangshuang? As a matter of fact, Tan Shuangshuang did not fully understand the first part statement. All she heard was the last sentence, which made her eyes blaze with fury as she clenched her fist. This woman dared to compare her to two palace maids? And even more insulting was that these two palace maids were prettier than her? Hilarious. In terms of beauty, Tan Shuangshuang was Lu Yun Kingdom's #1. How could two simple palace maids compare to her stunning beauty? Of course, Feng Ruqing slowly took 2 steps toward Lady Liu and said with a smile, if Tan Shuangshuang gets injured, the first person you'll have to interrogate would be your good son. Ask him how much energy and effort he put in at night in order to injure Tan Shuangshuang? She intentionally emphasized on the word energy one. This time, Lady Liu finally understood her meaning. Her face reddened from anger. Princess, you're accusing people, throwing filth at Shuangshuang's good name. Regardless of the situation, when a woman loses her purity before marriage, it was an embarrassing matter. Therefore, Feng Ruqing insulting the purity of an innocent girl in public was definitely vilification at its worst. Innocent? Feng Ruqing laughed. A vile girl with no proper background, walking in and out of a man's manor, claims that she's pure? Who would believe that? The entire Spirit Herb Store's crowd was stunned. Although Feng Ruqing was widely famous for being evil, she was indeed once married to Lu Yuqin. As for Tan Shuangshuang, although she was famous for being beautiful, she was indeed a bachelorette. If she had visited a man's manor that often, it would definitely ruin her reputation. Seeing the judgmental stares from the people around, Tan Shuangshuang's face turned pale, and her tears began to flow down her cheeks. Ani Lu, Yu Chun and I are indeed innocent. We are definitely innocent, she silently cried. Her eyes were filled with bewilderment. Feng Ruqing. A loud, angry voice rang from behind. Before Feng Ruqing could even react, a strong impact came pushing from the back. She lost her balance and fell forward. Qin Chin's eye caught a glance of the commotion, reached out his hand and pulled Feng Ruqing close to him. He coldly stared at the man who pushed forth and ran toward Tan Shuangshuang. The man's face was filled with panic, and he helplessly looked at Tan Shuangshuang's teary face. His anger boiled as he slowly turned around. His eyes were filled with rage. Feng Ruqing, I thought you've changed. I was just about to change my perception toward you. I really didn't think that you would still be the same old Feng Ruqing. Just as I wasn't around, you start to bully Tan Shuangshuang? Have you no heart? Chapter 147. The consequence of offending the Princess Ai. At first, Feng Ruqing was shocked. After a moment, she stood up furious and in pain. You pushed me? Lu Yuqin was dumbfounded. He just realized he did push Feng Ruqing due to anger. His forehead was filled with cold sweat, while he was clenching his teeth. That's because you were bullying Shuangshuang. Even though you may be a princess, you shouldn't be so impolite and irrational. Shuanger has been letting you have things your way. Why would you still find trouble with her? In order to bully her, you even followed her to this Spirit Herb Store. Would it hurt you to stop treating her so badly? Feng Ruqing sneered. She walked up to Lu Yuqin slowly, mocking him. Which eye of yours witnessed me bullying the little white lotus here? If you're not bullying her, then why would she be crying? Lu Yuqin clenched his fist, his eyes filled with hatred. In that moment, he had put the princess royal status aside. The only thing he knew was that he would never let the woman he loved be bullied. Yuqin. Tan Shuangshuang gently tugged at Lu Yuqin's sleeve. She shook her head with her eyes bright, filled with anxiousness. Please don't offend the princess on my behalf. The princess was right. I shouldn't always visit your manor. It made her doubt my purity. It's understandable. Lu Yuchen's heart was heavy. He raised his head as he glared daggers at the princess. Princess, a girl's purity is very important. Do you not understand? By disgracing her purity in public, aren't you sentencing her to death? I had never thought that you would hate her till this extent, till you want her life. Boom. Qin Shun suddenly attacked. A punch landed onto Lu Yuchen's chest. His body was forced backward. He stepped back a few steps and fell on top of the store counter. Yuer! Lady Lu shouted as her face turned pale. She quickly ran to his side. Her eyes were filled with sadness and her heart ached. All while Feng Ruqing just stood there at the back with her arms crossed, not bothered to help Lu Yuchen at all. At this very moment, Lady Lu was afraid to even say anything. Although her heart was filled with hatred and dissatisfaction, she was afraid of the consequences of offending the princess. Which hand did you use to push me? 1-inch Feng Ruqing's eyes didn't even glance at Lady Lu and Tan Shuangshuang. She immediately focused her gaze upon Lu Yuchen, staring down at him coldly. Lu Yuchen's chest felt tight and anxious. He can no longer see the love and admiration that were once there in the princess' eyes. Now it was only a cold resentment. Princess! Tan Shuangshuang panicked. She rushed in front of Feng Ruqing and kneeled. Her face were covered in tears. Her face was pale. If anyone's to be blamed, it was I. This has nothing to do with Lu Yuchen. It was I who foolishly snatched away your highness' true love. It was I who went to the chancellor's manor to look for Lady Lu, which led to the misunderstanding. From her words, she visited the Lu family's manor to pay a visit to Lady Lu. It was Feng Ruqing who had misunderstood her intentions. Feng Ruqing laughed cheerfully while looking at Tan Shuangshuang. And then, Tan Shuangshuang was taken aback. She bit her lips, looking at the princess in embarrassment. Princess, if you want to blame, then please blame me. If you're unhappy with me till the extent of following me to this spirit herb store just to insult me, I won't blame you. I just hope that you would spare Yuchen. He is innocent. Lu Yuchen's chest tightened. Shuang'er was willing to do this for his sake, yet he was not even able to protect the woman he loved. Chapter 148. The consequence of offending the princess. Tu Qin Shun looked at Lu Yuchen. Then, he turned and looked at Feng Ruqing. Qing, who do you think is more handsome, me or Lu Yuchen? Feng Ruqing smiled and touched Qin Chen's handsome face. Is my taste that bad? How could he be compared to you? Qin Chen was all smiles. Qing's taste is always good. Although I don't know anything, I'm smarter than him. My cultivation is better than his. I'm even better looking than him. Moreover, I'll do anything for you. Qing will never fall for someone useless. No, he has one advantage. He is vain. He's so full of himself that nobody can compete with that. Lu Yuchen's face darkened. He got up from the floor by supporting himself. He sneered and said, Princess, isn't he the man you knocked down the other day and brought back to your princess manor? Although Lu Yuchen had met Qin Shun, Lu Yuchen did not know about the rumor because he was just able to leave the Lu family that day. He would not keep quiet about it now that he knew of it. He's just a gigolo who was brought back by the princess. He could stay in the princess manor because of his beauty. How could he be compared to me? At least, I would not stoop to so low a standard just for the sake of power and status. If she needs me, she doesn't have to knock me down. Everything that belongs to me will be hers if she just says the word. Qin Shun walked toward Lu Yuchen. A strong aura came upon Lu Yuchen at that moment, and it made it difficult to breathe for him. Lu Yuchen raised his head in shock. He fixed his eyes at Qin Chen's handsome face. His heart was in a knot as he clenched his fists tightly. How can this be? The pressure emitted by this person is even stronger than my father's. Who is he? Only Lu Yuchen could feel a strong aura. Feng Ruqing could only feel the soft breeze next to Qin Chen. No one else present could feel it. The others only saw that Lu Yuchen had changed. Lu Yuchen was arrogant at first, but now he was filled with shock and fear. His face had paled. Yuchen. Lady Lu looked at Lu Yuchen worriedly. I'm fine. Lu Yuchen shook his head. He could feel that his breath was calmer after the pressure of the strong aura subsided. He could not help but take a few more deep breaths. Now, he was not so daring to make any move. You pushed Qingqing with your right hand just now, didn't you? Qin Shun stood in front of Lu Yuqin expressionlessly. Qin Shun used a little of the power in his hand. A clear cracking sound was heard. Lu Yuqin's right hand was bent. His bone was broken. It was so painful that his sweat started pouring. Yuqin. Lady Lu looked at Lu Yuqin in shock. Then, she turned and looked angrily at Feng Ruqing. Princess, you cannot let the others commit a crime like this, even though you're a princess. Feng Ruqing raised her eyes. She looked at Lady Lu fearlessly. According to the imperial laws of our kingdom, what's his consequence if he offended the princess? Lady Lu was stunned. It's true that Lu Yuqin was the one who started it, but it's because you're the one who has insulted Shuang first. Yuqin only wanted to protect her. Feng Ruqing nearly burst out in laughter. When have I insulted her? Isn't it true that she always goes in and out of Lu Manor? She always claims that she's only visiting Lady Lu. But who can prove that? Besides, I only see her with Lu Yuqin no matter where they are. Tan Shuang was nervous. Sure enough, Feng Ruqing still has feelings toward Lu Yuqin. If not, why does she treat me like an enemy? Chapter 149. The consequence of offending the princess. 3. The princess is only a woman who keeps a gigolo at home. How can she be compared to me? I didn't. Feng Ruqing sneered and said, I don't care whether you've slept together or not. What I have said was the truth. When did I wrong you? Besides, Lu Yuqin attacked me first. Should we break his hand? That? Lady Lu was stunned for a while. Then, she bit her lip unwillingly. You said you have never insulted Tan Shuang. Then, why do you treat her like your enemy? Why do you follow her here, Spirit Herb Shop? Shuang had told her before. Even if Feng Ruqing had ended her marriage with Lu Yuqin, Feng Ruqing never stopped having feelings toward Lu Yuqin. But Shuang had tried her best to avoid Feng Ruqing. Still, Feng Ruqing did not let Tan Shuang go. This woman, why is she always hanging around? Feng Ruqing turned and looked at Lady Lu. Do you know what's the consequence of spreading rumors about me? What? Those who spread rumors about me will be whipped 100 times. To Lady Lu and Tan Shuang, who were small and timid, 100 whipping would definitely kill them. Lady Lu was stunned. Feng Ruqing had never mentioned about whipping her when Feng Ruqing was still in the Lu family, even though she had argued with Feng Ruqing. Princess, I'm just telling the truth. Lady Lu bit her lip and decided not to back down. It's too late to take back what was said. Lady Lu understood that the princess came here just to embarrass them. Feng Ruqing looked at Lady Lu coldly. Then, she looked at the shopkeeper of the Spirit Herb Shop who was standing there, not doing anything. Go and call the elder of the Spirit Herb Shop. There was an elder in every shop in Paramount. They were the ones who were qualified to make decisions. The shopkeeper was stunned. Princess, the elder is busy and has no time for small matters. You can just tell me your order. The shopkeeper did not mention that the elder would not simply meet anyone. Feng Ruqing clasped her hands together. A token appeared in her palm when she raised her hand. The smile on the shopkeeper's face disappeared when he saw the token. His demeanor became solemn and was filled with respect. Why do you have the token of Paramount? The corners of Feng Ruqing's raised. Don't be bothered by how I got this token. Go and tell him that I, Feng Ruqing, want to meet him. Princess, please wait for a while. They'll go and inform the elder now. The token signified the young master. It was not a secret in Paramount. The young master was the only one who was able to give this token. Tan Shuang looked at the shopkeeper blankly. She felt a pain in the heart that felt like it was bitten by thousands of ants. She was not stupid. She understood that the reason behind the change in the shopkeeper's attitude was because of the token in Feng Ruqing's hand. It was not important how Feng Ruqing got hold of the token. It still extremely distressed her. Wait. Feng Ruqing stopped the shopkeeper suddenly. The shopkeeper turned and asked, Princess, what else do you need? I want to make use of the people in your Spirit Herbs shop. Take these 2 people out and give them 100 whippings. Feng Ruqing looked at Lady Lu condescendingly. I told you, those who spread rumors about me must pay for it. Lady Lu was stunned. She had always thought that Feng Ruking's appearance in the spirit herb shop was all because of Tan Shuangshuang. She had never thought that the princess came here solely because of the spirit herb shop. Lady Lu was anxious after hearing what the princess had said. Princess, I'm the Chancellor's wife. Aren't you afraid what the others might say if you treated me like this? Feng Ruqing smiled in return. Those who had scolded me were never small in number. I was immature before, but now if I want to change the impression people have of me, they'll not be weak and gullible. Those who offend me must pay. Chapter 150. The state preceptor's vicious tongue Feng Ruqing was obsessed with Lu Yuchen before so much, so that the people in the Lu family had forgotten her status and power as a princess. Lu Yuchen had allowed himself to expect the worst. Now, after he had heard what Feng Ruqing had said, his heart quickly turned cold. Princess, my mother is old, and she cannot endure such punishment. Shuanger is weak, and she too cannot endure such punishment. Please forgive them. They'll be responsible for all the mistakes. Feng Ruqing stroked her chin and smiled lightly. Lu Yuchen, I never thought that you were such a filial son and a loyal lover. That's good, and he'll grant your wish. But you can only choose one person between your mother and Tan Shuangshuang. You can only endure the punishment for your mother or Tan Shuangshuang. They'll see who you'll choose. The previous princess had done so many wrongs. She had even separated a pair of lovers. Feng Ruqing could not simply stand by and do nothing. But Feng Ruqing never thought that she would still be in contact with Lu Yuchen after she came to Lu Yun Kingdom. But these people just would not leave her alone. Tan Shuangshuang was stunned. She immediately looked at Lu Yuchen anxiously. She bit her lip, and there was both tension and eagerness in her eyes. Yuchen had always said that he loved Tan Shuangshuang deeply. He had always promised that he would protect her. He would definitely think of her first this time, wouldn't he? There was pin-drop silence in the spirit herb shop. Lu Yuchen did not utter a word for a long time. There was tension in the shop. There's my mother and my lover. How could I decide? I can't. If you can't decide, they'll decide for you. Feng Ruqing smiled brightly. You love Tan Shuangshuang deeply. You wouldn't want her to be hurt. Come, take Lady Lu out and give her 100 whippings. Lady Lu was nervous now. She held Lu Yuchen's sleeve tightly. There were even tears in her eyes. Yuchen, don't let the princess punish me. I will be dead. You must save me. I can't take 100 whippings. Lu Yuchen did not say anything. His handsome face paled. His lips were trembling. He clenched his fists tightly. The shopkeeper of the spirit herb shop took Feng Ruking's order and called somebody to take Lady Lu out. Lady Lu held tightly onto Yuchen's sleeve. She cried hysterically and refused to let go. Tan Shuangshuang sighed in relief after seeing that Lu Yuchen did not respond to Lady Lu. Yuchen chooses me at last no matter what, doesn't he? I'm the most important person to Yuchen. No one can compete with that, not even his mother. Tan Shuangshuang lowered her eyes. There was a faint smile playing on her lips. Tan Shuangshuang had treated Lady Lu nicely all this while because she had loved Lu Yuchen deeply. But she was also the daughter of a grand tutor. Her status was not any lesser than Lu Yuchen's status. She did not have to endure 100 whippings just for the sake of pleasing Lady Lu. Wait. Lu Yuchen opened his mouth after seeing that Lady Lu was being brought toward the door. He closed his eyes softly. There were great sufferings and pain on his face. I'll endure 100 whippings for my mother. Tan Shuangshuang's beautiful face turned pale at that moment. Her eyes widened as she turned to look at Lu Yuchen. There was deep grief in her eyes. Shuangshuang, I'm sorry. Lu Yuchen opened his eyes. He gazed at Tan Shuangshuang guiltily. His voice was trembling. My mother is weaker than you. She will be dead if she's whipped 100 times. I can't let her die. 1 inch. Chapter 151. The state preceptor's vicious tongue to Tan Shuangshuang was indeed stronger. She could not endure 100 whippings. But at least it would not kill her. Tan Shuangshuang bit her lower lip hard. Tears rolled down her cheeks. Her face was as pale as a sheet of white paper. She smiled bitterly. I thought I was very important to you, but I could never compete with your mother. Shuanger, Lu Yuqin held Tan Shuangshuang's hand tightly. Don't worry. They'll search for good medicines to help you recover quickly. Trust me, okay? Tan Shuangshuang removed her hand quickly. She was crying hysterically now. You have asked me to trust you, but have you ever trusted me? Am I the kind of woman who would not be bothered about my lover's mother? I've decided to endure the whipping no matter what your decision is. But I had still hoped that you'd choose me. Lu Yuqin was heartbroken and guilty after listening to Tan Shuangshuang's desperate and painful words. It was like a sharp knife stabbing him in his heart. Shuanger. Lu Yuqin held out his hand and pulled Tan Shuangshuang into a tight embrace. He closed his eyes softly. I'm sorry that I did not trust you. My Shuangshuang is always kind. You'll understand me, won't you? Kind? Tan Shuangshuang lowered her eyes and sneered. Her heart was ice cold. I had always thought that you're my most beloved person, but now, you have just given me up just like that. If that's the case, I'll make you guilty, and you'll suffer for the rest of your life because of me. Princess. Lu Yuqin released the girl in his hug. He raised his head and looked at Feng Ruqing. He gritted his teeth and said, Now, are you satisfied? You made me choose between my mother and Shuanger just because you want to see us in a situation like this, haven't you? Feng Ruqing clapped her hands. That's right. This good scene is indeed satisfying. Tan Shuangshuang, do you realize now? He's the man you have fallen for. He's so useless that he can't protect the woman he loves. What's the use of keeping him? Lu Yuqin was infuriated. His fists were clenched even tighter. Princess, every man would make the same choice as me. Why don't you ask the other sons whether or not they'll not protect their mothers? What about the man you want to marry in the future? Everyone was silent. One could always get a wife. But there was only a mother in this world. So, everyone present could understand Lu Yuqin's decision. Nobody would have thought that his decision was wrong. Qingqing. Qinshin frowned. He'll protect you. No one can hurt you. Not even his loved ones were allowed to lay a hand on her. You're so obedient. Feng Ruqing stood on tiptoe and patted Qinshin's head. She smiled, then turned to look at Lu Yuqin. She raised her eyebrows slightly. She seemed to give off a sense of being overbearing. But if the man I love cannot protect both my mother and me, then why should I love him? My man doesn't have to make a choice. It's because he has to choose both. Moreover, Feng Ruqing took 2 steps forward. She smiled even more widely. I will never allow anyone to threaten him. So, this kind of thing will never happen to him. Lu Yuqin was stunned. He was even angrier now. Chapter 152. The State Preceptor's Vicious Tongue 3. All Lu Yuqin's anger was suppressed when he saw that Yuqin had been looking at him. He sneered and said, Then, I'll wish that you can find someone like that. There's no need for your wishes. Suddenly, a cold and calm voice came from outside of the spirit herb shop. The voice was beautiful. It was like the voice of an angel. It also sounded like a melodious sound of a musical instrument. It's because she has found him. Lu Yuqin was stunned for a while. Then, he looked toward the door. His eyes suddenly narrowed, and there was disbelief in his eyes at that moment. Nanxian, the State Preceptor? Why is he here? He was so handsome that he looked like a god from heaven. There was a tinge of aloofness and arrogance in his presence. It was like he was a forgotten god. One Lu Yuqin was called the most handsome man in Lu Yun Kingdom. But he was nothing if he was compared to this man in front of him. No one had recovered their senses, and they soon saw that Feng Ruqing had rushed toward the State Preceptor. It was like a hungry wolf rushing toward its food. Feng Ruqing's plump body was being thrown on the handsome man, and he held her in a hug. Both Lu Yuqin and Tan Shuangshuang were shocked. The others might not recognize the State Preceptor, but both Lu Yuqin and Tan Shuangshuang knew his identity and status because they had always gone in and out of the palace for business. Even the second princess, Feng Ruqing, was not this close with the State Preceptor. Why didn't the State Preceptor throw her out after being treated like this? Tan Shuangshuang bit down on her lip hard. She looked at the handsome man in front of her and turned to look at Lu Yuqin, who was cast into the shade. She even felt a tinge of shame. State Preceptor, you said that you'll leave for only a month. Why did you leave for so long? The young girl's eyes were crystal clear. They seemed like they were just washed by clear water. Her crystal clear eyes could not take in any more people now. She had eyes only for the state preceptor. Lu Yuqin looked at Feng Ruqing in shock. Lu Yuqin had never seen Feng Ruqing with those eyes before, even when she came after him that time. They were clear and innocent. It seemed like her eyes were only meant for that person. I was held back for a few days by some business. Nan Xian lowered his eyes. He used his long fingers to stroke the prince's hair. His voice was gentle and loving. So, I've come back later than I'm supposed to. Qing'er, do you blame me? Feng Ruqing blinked. Why did she feel that the state preceptor was so gentle and loving today? The state preceptor held out his hands and hugged Feng Ruqing again when Feng Ruqing was in doubt. His lip was near Feng Ruqing's ear now. He used a soft voice which could only be heard by the two of them. It'll help you to get rid of him for good. It'll be a reward for you because you made a breakthrough to Earth Warrior tier. 1 inch the distance between the two people was short. It was like his lip was on her cheek from the back. There was an indescribable atmosphere between the two of them. Lu Yuqin's heart felt like it was being squeezed right now. He hated Feng Ruqing so much. But now that he saw her being this intimate with another man, he could not help but feel like his heart was being punched in. It was an oppressive feeling. All right. Feng Ruqing was not bothered by the other's reactions. She smiled slightly. How are you going to help me get rid of them? There was a coldness in Nan Xian's eyes. He immediately held the princess up by the waist. Feng Ruqing was shocked as she held on to Nan Xian's collar. State Preceptor, quickly put me down. I'm very heavy. You'll be crushed under my weight. Chapter 153. The State Preceptor's Vicious Tongue 4. Only those who are weak will criticize you about your weight. For me, your weight is just fine. Feng Ruqing's lips trembled at this. Why did it feel like what the State Preceptor said just now was meant for Lu Yuqin? State Preceptor, put me down. Feng Ruqing was afraid that the State Preceptor would be crushed under her weight. She could not help but want to struggle out of the State Preceptor's embrace. There. Don't move. The voice of the man was sweet and gentle. We're only apart for a month. You're lighter now. Is there anyone bothering you and making you unable to have your meals properly? Why can't I have my meal properly if someone is bothering me? Don't I know about you? If someone you hate is bothering you that day, you would be so disgusted with that person that you can't have your meal. If you meet those people again, you can just ask Qingzhu to go and deal with them. Just don't forget to have your meal. State Preceptor, does Qingzhu know about your vicious tongue? Lu Yuqin's face hardened further. He took a deep breath and walked toward Nan Xian slowly. State Preceptor, I see that you have a good relationship with the princess. I thought that the princess hated you because she used to always mention your wickedness. Nan Xian looked at Lu Yuqin calmly. They're people who are always threatening her. That's why she was afraid of me. Now, Qing'er has learned about my good personality, so she won't be afraid of me anymore. State Preceptor Nan Xian, you're so talented and powerful. Why have you fallen for the princess? The underlying meaning was how the outstanding State Preceptor had fallen for the princess who was a useless villain. Nan Xian lowered his eyes and looked at the girl in his embrace. There was a soft smile on his face. It's because I can recognize the excellent qualities overlooked by the others. Feng Ruqing blushed. If she did not know the State Preceptor was just helping her get rid of those people, she would have taken his words for real. State Preceptor. Lu Yuqin clenched his fists tightly. Then, do you know that the princess has found herself a gigolo when you're not around? Feng Ruqing was furious. This Lu Yuqin was so rotten that he was so bold to condemn her before the State Preceptor. State Preceptor, Qin Chun is my younger brother. Don't listen to Lu Yuqin's nonsense. You're the only one in my heart and on my mind. I only want to sleep with you. Nan Xian raised his head and looked at Lu Yuqin. He smiled lightly. I believe in Qing'er. They'll believe everything she says. Lu Yuqin was stunned. The State Preceptor should be angry after hearing that. Why was he so calm? Did he really believe Feng Ruqing? What made Lu Yuqin even more confused was that Feng Ruqing and the State Preceptor were two totally different people. They belonged to two different worlds. Why had they come together now? Lu Yuchen felt helpless and was reluctant to accept the truth. Feng Ruqing voiced out again when Lu Yuchen was just about to say something. Lu Yuchen is guilty of slandering me. Give him 100 whippings later. I am not Feng Ruqing if I do not punish him until he cannot live with himself, Feng Ruqing ordered angrily. She would not have bothered if Lu Yuchen slandered her any other day, but it was the state preceptor this time. Lu Yuchen's handsome face turned pale. He raised his head to look at Feng Ruqing. His eyes were in a daze. Princess. Tan Shuang was nervous and anxious. She rushed forward and knelt down in front of Feng Ruqing. She cried hysterically. The public has seen you knocking down the youth and bringing him home. They are the ones who had spread the rumor. It's not Yuchen's fault. Please forgive him this time. If you're still angry, I'll endure the punishment for him. Feng Ruqing could not help it. Her eyes widened in disbelief. She had seen how disappointed and angry Tan Shuang was after realizing how Lu Yuchen had treated her. But how could she behave like a hypocrite now? You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.